Welcome to Transcendent. I'm Joe, and I'm the dad.
And I'm Raya, and I'm the daughter.
Hey, Happy New Year!
Yes, it's New Year's Day.
Yeah, I can't believe it's New Year's Day. 2024, can you imagine?
It just has gone by so fast. I cannot get over it.
Well, and yesterday was my birthday. You know, that's a milestone.
It
for
is
me.
a milestone.
Yes. I had the big 80.
How do you feel? Do you feel 80?
Oh, well, I kind of feel 79. Because it is New Year's Day, we're starting off the new year with a couple of new things. This is the first time we've had two guests at the same time in our studio here. We're experimenting by adding another microphone. And
We've talked a lot about my coming out story, and we've had a few other people on, but this is the first time where we have a couple living in the community that is going to share their story. So we're very grateful to have you here. We have Roy and Matthew.
tell us about yourself.
My name is Roy. I'm 68. You know, they always say young at heart.
And Matthew, tell us about you.
I'm Matthew, and I am 51.
And the pronouns you use?
He, him.
Yep. He, him.
Okay.
We have been together in February. It'll be 28 years. Married
28
6.
Wonderful.
Oh.
So,
That's terrific.
I actually had to count that on my fingers this morning because I knew I was going to forget how long we've been together.
How did you meet?
It was Groundhog's Day, February 2nd, 28 years ago. I was working at the Grand Seasons Hotel as the bar manager, and he walked in, and I just fell head over heels in love, boom, right at that very moment. He came in with a couple of friends. It was crowded because we had karaoke that day. So that's when we met, was on Groundhog's Day, February 2nd.
So you get to relive that then?
Yeah,
Over and over again?
yes.
over and over again, yes.
Not the karaoke part.
Right. Or slinging drinks, you know, anything like that. But yeah.
May I ask for each of you, how do you identify as like gay or bisexual, pansexual, or
Gay.
Oh, yeah. We did it at the same time. Yeah. Yep.
Roy, I understand you were married before, though?
I was. I was married for 20 years. I have 2 children, and I have 6 grandchildren. Another boy's coming. My son, they're expecting another little boy. They have 2 girls, and my daughter's got a son and a daughter. She's got the oldest, and she has another,
Her part.
her partner's little girl. So I include her as my grandchild, too.
Mm-hmm. And do they live nearby?
My son lives here in town, and my daughter lives out of town, but close by.
That's nice. I'm not that lucky. I have most of my family right here, not too far away, but I've got a small part of my family in Texas. So we go down there every year and spend time so they know us. And Matthew, what about you?
My family lives all within 2 hours.
Oh, that's wonderful.
Yeah. Yeah. We get together quite a bit.
Each of you came out about the same time, or was it different for each of you?
I came out later in life. Like I said, I was married for 20 years. I had no feelings or no idea about how my life was going to turn out until the first time I met Matthew.
Aha.
And to me, it was like hitting a brick wall. It was like, wow. Yeah, because I had no idea until later in life, and he just stole my heart at first sight.
And I don't know when I would say I officially came out. I never personally felt that need to explain it to my family. I guess I viewed things as they didn't explain their relationship, so why do I? But after my dad passed away, then I wish I would have talked to my parents about it. And I did talk to my mom about it. I did feel different after telling her openly about it.
What do you mean by different? Freer?
Yes. Yes. Yeah. I didn't, I guess I internally didn't think it would matter, but it did. And I wish I would have had the opportunity when my dad was still alive.
I hear that often.
I think so. I think we've always said the closet is no place to live. Oftentimes we figure like you did, I don't need to have this conversation, but for some reason when you do, it feels liberating. Why do you think that was for you?
I think it was because after my dad died and I was thinking on things, it almost felt like I felt a need to hide something that I outwardly thought I wasn't. So internally, it just needed to happen. Yeah. Although it was a good conversation with my mom, and she said we had a lot of conversations about this. She said we're not as dumb, so to speak, as you might think we are. We are aware. She said we were just waiting for you to say something.
And how old were you when you did that?
I was 31.
Oh,
Yeah.
long after high school.
Yes. Yeah. The very first person I ever said anything to was a client of mine, kind of through her prodding, but she had relatives that were gay, and she just kind of picked up on things, and that was that. And here and there, a relative, but for the most part, I've never hid who I am per se if someone asked me, but I didn't necessarily start a conversation with it.
Yeah.
Now, did you have relationships before that?
No.
No, there was nothing.
Roy was my first.
Your very
and only.
first.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. The first time I saw him, I left and I went out to my car. I just kind of looked in the mirror and said, I'm going to have him.
Wow.
Wow. And then, Roy, for you at that point hadn't come to terms with your own sexuality?
No, I have not, because it was just like I said, it was like hitting a brick wall when he first walked in. I just watched him walk in. I just kind of like stared all the way until he sat down. So yeah, I mean,
Wow.
yeah,
So it was truly love at first sight.
it totally
Yeah,
was.
It was.
Yep.
That's
Actually, I've heard that same story, a similar story like that from your grandfather when he met his second wife. It was the same way. They were in their 80s. His wife had died, my mother-in-law. When he walked in, she turned to the person who was sitting with her and said, I'm going to marry that man.
Yeah.
And I think I feel a little bit the same way with my grandfather as you did with your father. I wish that I would have had a chance to have that conversation with him. I think because he never got to know the real me.
Yes.
And that's a little bit sad. It feels like I was hiding a part of myself, and I wish I wouldn't have done that.
And it's ironic, but I would say in my family of my siblings, I'm the most like my dad. So I don't know if that was part of it.
Talking with your mom, it sounds like he knew.
Yeah. They discussed it. Mm-hmm.
And were they accepting? Was he accepting before it came
Yeah,
out?
ironically, I think that after talking to my mother, I in my head was thinking she would have an easier time and he would have a harder time. And after talking with her, I felt he had an easier time than she did.
And do you have any idea why? What were the issues?
I don't. If I had a feeling, it would maybe be the whole expected, like, get married, have a family thing. Don't you want, she did say something about, don't you want to have kids? Which I do, because Roy has kids. So, and personally, I've never had a drive to have children. So, no.
So that is your family now.
It is. Yes.
So are you dad and are you grandpa?
They've never called me dad. Some of the grandkids call me grandpa. Yeah. But it was different in that regard, too, because his daughter wasn't as open about our relationship with her kids. And I don't know what that dynamic was, if it was her husband at the time, how he felt about things or being labeled. But his son's family has always referred to me that way. And it's fine either way.
Yeah, they call Grandpa Matthew. And, sometimes Kelly says, my two dads. So with me coming out, it was a lot easier because my parents and grandparents have all passed before any of this happened. And the first one I came out to was my daughter. And we were living together at the time, and she wanted to move in with us, or move in with me. So we were on our way to go to shopping. We were in the car, so I told her, there's something I need to tell you. And she knew Matthew before that. I mean, they have met. And I said, well, Matthew is living with me. I'm gay. She looked at me. She started crying. I started crying. We had to pull the car over. And she said, Dad, that's okay. You're still my dad. And I love you for whoever or whatever you are. That'll never change. You're always going to be my dad. So when can I move in? Yeah, so it was that day after we got done shopping. Then we went and got her things, and she moved in that day.
She sounds to me like she's a lot of common sense there.
Yep. And it's just like, and I was kind of nervous. So it was a little bit longer with my son when I told him, because he was young yet, still in school. So I waited a little bit longer to tell him. He accepted it right away as well.
I did the same thing when Raya came out. The first thing that came to my mind is either you accept it or you lose her.
Mm-hmm.
There's nothing in between. And that's always true. Those that accept it right away, it makes all of our lives much easier.
Yes.
Have you had anyone in your extended family that has been less accepting?
I haven't, because I just have my 2 kids and my grandchildren. I don't have any other relatives that I know of. So it was just my children that I came out to, and they told their children. Yeah. So with me, I didn't have anybody outside of my immediate family.
I have. On my dad's side, I would say it wasn't, but they're not people that talk about anything. So I was just part of the plan, so to speak. My mom's side, yes, she has some sisters that are more faith-driven, we'll say. So they had a more challenging time, we'll say. They're better with Roy now. I don't know how they feel. It doesn't affect me, but they weren't as kind, we'll say.
Did they ever have conversations with you or initiate conversations?
No, not directly to me. Just what I heard, hearsay, but that's for what it's worth. Roy initially would come to me with family at family gatherings. They wouldn't talk to him. They just kind of like isolated us, so to speak. So then it just didn't happen. And then there was the question, well, why isn't he here? Well, because if we aren't here, I'm not there. Mm-hmm. So it's a package deal.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Which is an interesting concept, because we're talking a lot about allyship and what it means to be a good ally. And oftentimes I think when we're thinking about being an ally, you don't think about, am I talking enough to this person? It's easy, I think, to tell yourself, I'm not being rude. In fact, I'm not doing anything. And I'm sure they went away not thinking that they had misbehaved or done anything. And yet it was such a subtle signal to you.
I agree. Yeah. I mean, I could have engaged in conversation. But I chose not to also.
So in the 28 years that you two have been together, have you experienced at all, either individually or as a couple, have you experienced any negatives at all? Neighbors are not happy that you're there, or there are people who in your past have been non-affirming and those kinds of things? Or when you've been together, have you noticed any strangers reacted differently? Any of that?
Well, when we first bought our house, we have one neighbor that, the people that we bought it from said, oh, we sold our house. And he said, it's not that gay couple, is it?
Oh.
And so that's the only negative thing that came our way.
In 28 years?
Yeah, that I know of.
You weren't there when they said it, were you?
No, we weren't there, because the previous owners told us that this gentleman said this, that he had said this. Yeah.
He doesn't communicate with me.
He talks to me all the time now.
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay.
He'll say, hey, have a good day, but every time I'm outside, he's always engaging conversation with me. But every time Matthew's outside,
he runs.
He runs.
No kidding.
He darts the other way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Whatever. We're still there.
Yep.
You don't bite, do you?
No.
So have you lived at that same place for almost 28 years?
No, we only lived there for 6.
Oh, I see.
We lived out in the country before that.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Marriage. Did you kind of consider yourself married before the law?
I didn't.
No.
I did, because we were together for 22 years before. So, I kind of just figured we were.
I guess it was kind of like the coming out explanation thing. I'm like, why do we have to have a piece of paper to say we're married. And I proposed to him, ironically. And it was, I don't even know. It was just like one day I'm like, I think I want to get married. And when I would tell people, they're like, you? Because they know how I felt before. I'm like, why do I have to be married? There again, it did change how things were. But we're just like any other married couple, which might disappoint some people. But we have the same issues. Two people going through life together and the things they deal with.
That's the thing that we want most people to understand. It's all normal. It's a normal marriage. It's a normal life. And I think a lot of people who are on the outside, who are trying to understand, they're not necessarily allies at this point, but they might be listening to this podcast and wanting to be. But they just don't understand. It isn't any different from anybody else. And people have a hard time in the beginning understanding that. We had a whole podcast with a doctor of veterinary science who told us about how normal this is in the animal world. And that actually was one of our most popular ones. That's what we really try to get across continually. Mm-hmm. This is normal life for everyone.
Yeah.
There's no differences.
I have a lot of clients that share their personal stuff with me and their relationship things. Whenever I add anything that's relatable, generally, like, the reaction is surprising. Like, that's how I am with my partner.
Oh, yeah.
And I'm like, because it's not any different.
And for our listener audience, what do you do?
I'm a hairdresser.
And so you get people coming in talking about their lives
Everything.
and talking about everything.
Yes.
You get to hear everything.
I've heard it all.
Yep.
On occasion, I will say, that's a first, but it's been a long time.
Yeah. So I hear more than we do.
Literally, yes, I do. There's a lot of personal things that are shared with me with people that struggle with many different things.
Oh, yeah.
That the public, they feel, would not accept of them, that they share. And they're comfortable in my space, which makes me very happy. And I've often been told I'm easy to talk to. Like, I don't know why I'm telling you this. And I'm like, it's okay.
What sorts of things do people talk about that maybe would be a surprise?
Marriage problems.
Oh, sure.
Divorce. Thinking of divorce.
Yeah.
We're very therapy related, I guess. I don't know if I would give my advice as much as my experience. But they seem to come away from it with something that helps, which is good.
So maybe in a sense, you're bringing your vulnerability into that space and they feel
Yes.
comfortable talking to you?
Yes. Yes.
Even my ex-wife has accepted us. We do gatherings, birthdays, holidays, and she comes to all of our family functions and celebrations. So she is accepting of us as well.
Did that take a long time for that to happen?
It did. It did take a long time for that to happen. At first, we didn't communicate. I get a phone call one day saying, she said, I just have to ask you a question. She said, are you living with a man? And I go like, I am. And she said, are you gay? And I said, I am. And she says, I don't care. That's fine. She says, I don't care what you do with your life. Our life together is over. And what you do now, it's your business. And I don't care.
Mm-hmm.
But it was a few years. I mean, the first year that we were together, it was hard not to be with my kids at Christmas time.
Of course.
Yeah. So he went to his family's and I just stayed home.
But you're like mourning.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah. It was just something totally different, not being with the kids on Christmas. But yeah, it was a couple of years and then it was way better for me.
You mentioned before, Matthew, you mentioned too, when you first came out, you said it was freeing. When your wife said, I don't care, did you have that same feeling, this is freeing?
I did, because I didn't know how she was going to react or feel about this and stuff like that. And when she actually called that one day and said that, it was just like something had got lifted off of my shoulder. It was kind of like the final piece to the puzzle when she called and said, it's your life now. Our life is done together. What you do, I'm getting chills right now, it's your life now. So she accepted it, and now we go to holidays together. She's invited to everything, and birthdays, Christmas, every holiday she's there and celebrates right along with us.
Probably took some time. You needed some space to
Right.
sort of get reacclimated with one another. With that relationship, did your sexuality play into the ending of that relationship?
No, it did not. Because we had talked about divorce prior to that.
Oh.
Yes, because we just fell out of love. And I did not divorce because of meeting Matthew. We were talking about it. We were going to wait until the kids were out of school, and then we were going to divorce because we just fell out of love. Our interests were going in different paths, as far as friends that we've had, even high school friends, our jobs. So it was kind of like, she more or less kind of like disagreed with everything I was doing when we were married with my jobs and our friends. And I said, well, these are your friends too. I said, they're our high school friends. Well, why do you always have to go out? I said, you're invited too. So it was more of a mutual decision that we were going to divorce after the kids were out of school. And I said, why put the kids through this? Why put myself through this and my ex-wife through this? I said, I think we should just call it quits like now. And then, then we moved in together and stuff like that. So my divorce was not connected with this. It was just, we were just planning it anyway. And we weren't compatible anymore. We're just like not getting along. And my oldest child was out of school and youngest was just starting. So he had 4 years left. And we just said, let's just call it quits now.
Well, I think this is interesting insight that we're getting into a couple. If you have some questions that you'd like to ask them, we know where they live. And we'd be happy to answer your questions. Email us at transcendent@gmail.com. If you have any other ideas or any thoughts, we are working on our editorial calendar for 2024. If you think this is helpful to someone else, share this podcast with them.
We've got some great episodes coming up here in the next couple of weeks. Next week, we're going to be talking about our approach to cultural conflict and just asking, are we making things worse with the way that we're approaching people? And then after that, we're going to be talking about a taboo subject, quote unquote, sex change surgeries.
We have someone here who has experience.
You'll want to be back here for those. We've got a lot of great stuff coming up. Roy and Matthew, thank you again so much for coming today and joining us. The thing that strikes me is how normal your story is, how much it is just like any of the stories that we go through, that it's unique in the same way that we all have unique stories. Thank you for coming and sharing your story with us.
Thank you for having us.
Yeah, thank you for having us.
Next Monday is another exciting podcast, so we'll see you Monday.